So I went through and made a list of some of the things that I wish I knew as a new grad nurse. Hey everyone, this is Thomas from NurseMoneyTalk, where in this video I'm going to help you by giving you some tips that hopefully will kind of guide you into an easier transition as a new nurse. Before I get started though, if you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss any of my upcoming videos. So let's just get started. The number one thing that I realized, and I realized this a little bit later on, was that I should have made sure that I had the right gear. What I mean by that is that in nursing school, with being a poor college student or whatever, honestly had to buy what I could. So for example, two big ones, probably didn't have the best shoes I could get, so just got the cheapest thing I could afford. And then the other thing as well was that I got the cheapest stethoscope I could afford. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even think I bought a stethoscope. I had pretty much a hand-me-down, and I struggled to hear, to kind of hear anything from that stethoscope. And so the main thing I want to get across is that in nursing school, you have to make sacrifices with kind of like some of the gears and whatnot that you were using. As you get out of nursing school and you start your first job as a new nurse, you really need to, if you can't afford it, then figure out a game plan to where you can replace some of those, some of those gears that you use for training and replace them with better quality gear that you'll be using, out of training as a full-fledged nurse. The big one being shoes. You're going to be out on your feet a lot. The other one being stethoscope. I know a lot of nursing students, I feel like they're rolling around. I've seen some, with some, probably like cheap stethoscope or whatever they could get. So just kind of keep that in mind, because there's a lot of negatives to not having proper equipment. Next one is actually seeking out some new grad nurse courses. And this one's kind of interesting because it wasn't really a thing when I was coming out of school, but nowadays, especially as, the digital age and online courses have become so prevalent, there's a lot of options out there. The one in particular that I would actually recommend, you can get to that by going to NurseMoneyTalk.com/New Grad Academy. That is an affiliate link. But in there, like some of the things that you'll learn from those courses would be IV insertion, EKG reading, managing stress, documentation kind of tips and tricks and skill, and how to document appropriately, how to prioritize. And then there's so much more to it than that you'll learn, but that's just kind of giving you some of the things that you will learn. So definitely check that out. Do you really need it? Probably not. You don't need it, but I think honestly, there's a lot of things we don't need, but it's a nice to have, because, it might help make certain things easier. And I do think like courses like the one that I mentioned can help make things easier, can help kind of clean up some of the stuff you learned from nursing school and kind of solidify some of those skills, some of that information for actual clinical practice. So definitely check that out. Like I said, that's NurseMoneyTalk.com/New Grad Academy. You'll see the link in the screen. It'll also be in the descriptions below. Next one is that I wish I knew how important it was to just keep learning and keep improving. So for starters, I already mentioned about the New Grad Academy, but even still, like as you progress in your career, like you don't be that nurse where like you're 10, 15 years in and you're doing the thing that has already been proven by multiple research, and that's not the best thing to be doing. That's not the latest evidence-based practice, but you're doing it just because that's how you've always done it. Don't be that nurse. So just be of the mindset to keep learning and to keep improving on your craft. The fourth thing that I wish I knew, graduating out of nursing school and starting my, my first nursing job, is that it's important to get to know your coworkers. And I'm not even talking about like you have to hang out with them, become like BFFs forever or something like that. No. I'm just talking about like, just get to know your coworkers. Like take an interest in your coworkers, like be cordial. And the primary reason for this being that like, you're going to spend a lot of time with these people. And you know what? I know you're going to have bad coworkers. I know it. You're going to have like bullies. You're going to have just coworkers that are just unpleasant to be around. But the thing that to keep in mind is that, and I'll talk about more on this later, is that you're going to need backup. And you're going to have those shifts where it will literally take a village for you to get through those days between, short-staffed or whatever the case is. So it's a lot easier to ask for help. It's a lot easier to get help when you have taken an interest in your coworkers. Number 5, and this has directly relates to number 4, which is there is no I in team. Like, it is so important to work as a team, as a nurse, even in situations where, like, okay, you have your own set of patients, I have my own set of patients. I've had situations where that's the case, and we're still working, rocking and rolling as a team. You see a call bell goes out, the nurse is all the way on the other side. You can go take care of that patient when they need water or whatever the case is. You don't have to just like go grab their nurse who's all the way on the other side just to come all the way around and give them water when you are literally standing right there. And so I think it makes such a huge difference in just really cementing that there is no I in team, and shifts go by so much smoother when everybody's working together as a team. Number 6 is to ask questions. And I'm the type of person that asks a lot of questions. But then I started, or typically ask a lot of questions, I should say. But then, as I started thinking about it, I was like, you could always ask more questions. I feel like a lot of, new nurses or trainees or whatever, nurses that I'm precepting, they just kind of feel like they're going to ask a stupid question. And here's what you need to know. There is no such thing as a stupid question. There is such a thing as you doing something stupid because you didn't ask a question that you should have. And so, I mean, there's been countless things that I've seen where, like, it's, if they would have just asked instead of guessing, there wouldn't have been such a bad outcome or a bad patient outcome. So just ask questions. And you're new. And you're new. That's the other thing. You're new. People are going to expect that you're going to be asking questions. Number 7 is to actually listen to advice from the right people. It's kind of multifaceted in the sense of like, you ask a question and then you're given good advice and then you don't follow that advice given and then there's something bad that happens. But at the same time, number 7 also has to do with making sure that you are taking advice from the right people. Because, you want to be taking advice from somebody who is well-versed with what the guidelines are, who is a stellar nurse, delivers excellent patient care. You want to avoid taking advice from the one who is, I don't know, the unit troublemaker or the unit pain in the butt, who, is constantly cutting corners and their patient care ability is kind of questionable. So you don't want to be taking advice from those people. So it's important that you understand who you're taking advice from. Number 8 is to really focus on learning to manage your time and prioritize. And so normally when people say this, oh, time management or whatever, they immediately think med surg. But that's not really what I'm talking about, because I've already made a video, and I'll link to that up top as well. Well, actually, it's going to be over here, where I mentioned that I don't think you necessarily have to start in med surg as a new grad nurse. So I've already talked about that. But what I mean by managing your time and prioritizing is that each specialty you're in, whether that's the ER, ICU, whatever, that you, or med surg even, there's going to be differences in, obviously there's commonalities in, across the board that you're going to prioritize. Yeah. I get that part, but I'm saying like even amongst those specialties, whether it's because it's specific to those specialties or it's specific to that particular facility, there's going to be certain things that you're going to have to prioritize. And so you're going to have to manage your time to get those done. And so this is really important that you kind of get a handle on it. There's actually a pretty good book. It talks about a lot of other things as well besides this as well. That would be pretty good as a first year nurse if you're a big book reader. I'll put a link to that in the descriptions below. Number 9 is to learn to stop and breathe. Breathe. You're going to be stressed. You're just coming out of school. You don't know what you don't know. Like, you're just going to be stressed, and that's okay. The main thing is learning how to manage that stress, learning how to de-stress. And I'll put, you'll see a video, and then there'll be some stuff in the description below you can check out on that. Number 10, master the art of charting. My charting skills were definitely, like, I think very questionable when I first started working. There's an art to charting. And so the best thing I would say is similar to, seeking out advice from the good nurses on your unit. Once you've established who those are, is definitely seek them out as a resource to make sure you get charting down as well. And then you'll also see I'll have some material as well in the description below. Number 11, focus on patient safety. Pretty much a lot of what we do in healthcare will revolve back around to this notion of patient safety. And so you always want to keep that in mind when you're doing something, is to remember patient safety. Number 12 is just don't be afraid to call the doctor. But when you do call the doctor, just make sure that you're prepared and you call them with confidence. Because at the end of the day, you have a job to do, they have a job to do. So you need to make sure that that you're calling them when it's appropriate. Number 13 is manage your whining. It's going to suck. Like I already mentioned about the stress part, it's going to suck. You're going to deal with short-staffed, probably anywhere from a management that's poor all the way to a management that just sucks. So I think what you want to avoid is a situation where you're constantly whining about it. And worse yet, you're constantly whining it to the exact same people who are dealing with the exact same thing. I'm actually not even saying you can't complain at all. Personally, I think there's something a little bit therapeutic to, for standing around and complaining a little bit. Shoot, in nursing school, we did that. We would stand around after a test, thinking like, oh my goodness, this sucks. This test was so horrible this unit, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we were just whining and complaining about it. And honestly, like I said, there's something therapeutic about it. Maybe something to do with the misery loves company. I don't know. But the main thing though is you need to know that there's a limit to it, and you don't want to be known as the whiner. And I guess in other words, to simplify what I'm saying is don't whine more than everybody else on your unit. Yeah, actually, I like that. Let's just go with that. Don't be the biggest whiner. You can whine, but just don't be the biggest whiner or crybaby on your unit. Number 14 is to get out of the NCLEX mindset. And what do I mean by that is, honestly, there's a huge difference between NCLEX world and the real world. Big difference. So NCLEX world does not equal the real world, and you need to get into that mindset. And I'll just leave it at that. Number 15 is to know who your actual leaders are. One of the things that I quickly realized is that there's so when I was in business school, I did remember we talked about, one of the management deals about informal versus formal leaders or whatnot. I quickly realized when I got out of school and started working as a nurse that was on point. I mean, yeah, I probably should have realized there was something to it. But anyway, it was on point because the thing about it is like you have, so first of all, let me just clarify so make sure we're all on the same page. Formal leaders would be like the ones who actually have the title. So house supervisor, nurse manager, team manager, director of nursing, whatever. Informal leaders are the ones who don't have the title, but are the ones that, like, you could say that people still look up to them. They're looked at as major stakeholders in decisions made. They have, they could be the ones, they have some influence as well. And I think I think depending on what unit you're in or what floor you're on, I think you can get an idea of what I'm talking about after you've been there probably for about 6 months. But anyway, so you can have situations where your informal leaders are actually more influential than your actual formal leaders. Which it sounds weird that I'm saying this, but it does happen. So the main thing is to just know who's who. Like, who are the obvious, I think it's gonna be pretty easy to know who the formal leaders are, but who are the informal leaders? So who is it that have a big sway in whatever decisions are made, even though they don't have a title and we're all on the same, if you want to say hierarchy, and just kind of keep that in mind, because honestly, that just might change a little bit how you interact with them. I'll leave it at that. Number 16, don't make your supervisor look bad. Butt chewing is a top-down hierarchy. Honestly, I'm sure you can imagine another more creative way this could be said. In other words, you make your manager look bad, I mean, it's just not gonna help you out in the long run. So just kind of keep that in mind. Next part is I'm gonna talk more about kind of like the professional aspects in general of being a new grad nurse or just a nurse in general. And number 17 is take care of your personal nurse brand. So in other words, take care of your reputation. So when people hear Sally RN is showing up to work and I'm going to be working with them. So you don't want people, I think it's easier to say what you don't want. You don't want people to immediately think, oh, Sally RN, oh my goodness, it's going to be a long, long day working with Sally. That's what you don't want. You don't want that reaction. And I'm not saying that you need to be kissing up to anybody or whatever, but honestly, your reputation matters, because that's how pleasant you are, how easy you are to work with, how much of a hard worker you are, and so on and so forth. So that matters. Number 18 is to find a mentor and network. I wish I had started this earlier because that makes a huge difference. Separate video will deal with kind of like what a mentor is, but in essence, you want one because that mentor if, you know, whether it's a formal or informal mentorship, if you will, we'll be able to kind of show you the ropes, maybe guide you a little bit in kind of like on your journey to not being a new nurse anymore. And not to mention, like, honestly, having a strong network is really nice for when you need another job, which I think a lot of people at some point, you're going to be looking for a job, either because you decide you leave or you get fired. And so number 19, which is make sure that you are actively networking with people, forming connections. These are the same people, you know, that might be able to get you a job after you quit your current one, maybe put in a good word for you on a really prestigious or highly sought after position. Number 20 is, I think, staying humble and showing gratitude, regardless of what school you graduated from, what your GPA is, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, once you get that licensure, you're on the same plane as all the other, you know, as all the other RNs. You got a BSN RN and you have your licensure and you have zero experience. You're pretty much on the same plane as everybody else. And just kind of like, but at the same time, make sure you're confident. There is a fine line between being overly cocky and being confident. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I think it is important to just be confident, and especially when you're calling doctors, when you're talking to your coworkers, when you're talking to patients, doing patient teaching. I mean, that rubs off, and that makes a difference in terms of how patients perceive it. Perceive the information you're giving them. Number 21 is to brush off bad shifts. You're going to have bad ones. It's just going to happen. I mean, there is nothing you can do about it. You know, you'll have situations where, depending what specialty you're in, where you might have a lot of people code. You might have somebody pass away. You know, you could be in a situation where you have literally done every single thing perfectly you could have, and things still not work out well for you. It's just gonna happen. The main thing that I would say about this is just to remember, a bad shift does not necessarily equal a bad nurse. So just keep that in mind. Number 22 is pretty simply, don't stay at your job if it sucks. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. So I would just leave it at that. If you do end up deciding to, you know, go check out and see if there's greener pastures elsewhere, you can find our job board by going to NurseMoneyTalk.com/jobs. If it's not working out for whatever reason, I'm not saying you should just immediately jump ship without giving it, the good college try or whatever, however that phrase goes. But still, if it just ain't working out, then you just kind of have to know, that it might be time to go look for greener pastures elsewhere. Number 23 is to treat your techs and your ancillary staff well. I'll just say this part. A good tech is going to make your life easy. I mean, I'm not saying that the job's not going to be hard, or actually, let me rephrase that by saying a good tech is going to make your shift easier than it would have been. And so it honestly, it really bothers me when I see nurses that at times will treat their techs, or whether it be their custodial staff or whatever, dietary staff, and they'll treat them poorly. Because as far as I'm concerned, everybody has a job that they need to do. They can't do their job. In certain situations, you can't do their job either. Either way, you need that. You need them. They need you. You need to treat your people well. I mean, it just don't be that person. Just take care of your text. Number 24 is don't lie. Nursing is continuously voted as one of the most trusted professions in healthcare. And there's a lot of integrity associated when it comes to the nursing profession. You just don't lie. The odds that you'll get away with it are honestly not very high. So this next part, the last part, I really just want to look at just kind of like things that are important for a new nurse, but that might actually extends actually beyond just being a nurse. Number 25 is know your limit. There's a lot that goes into this, but the one that I will touch up on is about picking up an absurd amount of shifts when you're first starting out. Just know what your limit is. Just know I've done a crazy amount of shifts in a row. All I would say is just know what your limits are, and it's going, I think for a lot of hospitals or a lot of facilities in general, especially when they really need it, they'll work you to the ground if you let them. They'll work you to the point where it's unsafe. Most of them will. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of taking care of yourself. Number 26 is to focus on your personal finance. There's so much that comes with this. This could be if you have a lot of student loans. This could be if just for budgeting purposes, saving, investing, retirement. I mean, the list just goes on and on. The point being that you just need to just take your personal finances seriously. And so if you're looking for like a personal finance advisor, if you're just really bad with money, you can go to NurseMoneyTalk.com/money planner. That's an affiliate link that'll take you over to a spot where you can actually just search for a financial planner. So that's NurseMoneyTalk.com/money planner. Money planner, all in one word. And you'll see it here and then in the description below. That's all I'm going to say about the personal finance part. It's important. It's important it's definitely important for your immediate needs as well as for your long-term financial need as well. And so number 27, and I've touched up on this already, is to take care of yourself. Whether that's making sure you're working out regularly, eating well, not managing your stress, not overly working, a million hours a week because you can. Just make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you're not taken care of, how are you going to adequately take care of others? So that's something to keep in mind as well. Number 28, and my last one, is to remember that healthcare is a business. What I mean by that is you need to show up there and pursue excellence in the job that you do, in your interactions with your facility's customers, and everything else. Just be in pursuit of excellence. But with that said, you need to remember, healthcare is a business. Profit or no profit, hospital or whatever, bottom lines are still going to be met. I guess the one exception would be if you're working for some government type facility. That might be a little bit of exception, but even still, but for the rest of them, it's a business. And when I say that doesn't mean that they're all bad, they're evil or whatever, and they shouldn't make any money. No, that's not what I'm saying. You got to pay X, Y, and Z staff or whatever. So, they need to be making money to keep the lights on. So that's not what I'm saying. And I'm also not saying that good things aren't happening in that facility, because obviously good things are probably happening. Nor am I saying that you shouldn't show up to work each day with the mindset of serving patients and their family members to the best of your abilities. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that while you are in the pursuit of excellence, while you are in the pursuit of serving your patients and serving them well, you need to remember that it is a business. That's pretty much all I have. As these videos that you'll see show up here to my left shortly, they're videos that I think that would be beneficial as a new nurse. So you can definitely check them out. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section if there's one in particular or several that you would like more details or a separate video on, specifically on that. Let me know. Don't forget to share this for anybody who you think would need this information. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you very soon in that next video.